gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head says, get out and play, 'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day.
Hello, happy Tuesday, my friends. I am so glad that it's Tuesday. I am so glad that you're here. And for anyone wondering who is just watching that little video, the four-leaf clover and the hand picking the four-leaf clover, that is a real four-leaf clover. It is my hand. I found it a couple summers ago, and I love that clip, and I love sharing it with all of my friends who were like, I didn't realize that four-leaf clovers were real things. They are real. So I am especially excited today to introduce my guest, Courtney Sharma. Courtney and I grew up together. We are two small town Vermont girls who years and years later reconnected when we both moved to neighboring towns a couple hours away from home. So of all the people in my life right now, Courtney is the person who is not family who has known me the longest. So it is such a treat to have you here, Courtney. I'm so excited. So for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting my friend Courtney, Courtney is an intuitive energy healer whose work is deeply rooted in the wisdom of spiritual Chinese medicine. She guides people to identify their strengths and purpose and transform their personal challenges with face reading. She helps her clients to find ease and balance by releasing stuck and stressed energy for their personal energy fields as well as for their homes. All of her work centers around allowing a safe space for her clients to release emotional, energetic blocks without having to sift through the trauma. She works with clients in person locally and remotely all over the world. So, Courtney, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, Amanda, thank you so much. I'm really, really excited to be here. And thank you for that beautiful intro. And I'm so happy we've reconnected after all those years. It's very special.
I was just telling Courtney before we went live that if I had thought of it earlier, I would have dug up some adorable pictures of little Amanda and little Courtney. I'm thinking of our dance recital in first grade with our red tutus, which is
that would be cute.
I will let everyone imagine how cute and darling we were. And I want to say hello to Charlonda, who is joining us today. Hello, glad you are here. And if you are listening with us today, if you'll drop a comment in the chat, let us know where you're calling from. Let us know the best part of your day. Just let us know that you're here. And we will pray to the Restream gods that they will populate the comments. Sometimes they populate, sometimes they don't. If we don't acknowledge you, please know that we are not ignoring you. It's just a technology thing. So with that, Courtney, tell us your story. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah. So I do energy clearing for people, pets, and places, and I do face reading, and it's a kind of form of coaching. And the way I got into all of this is I'm very, very sensitive. I have been super sensitive since I was very small. I was super shy as a kid. I think in elementary school, some of my teachers didn't know what to do with me because I, could cry at the drop of a hat or get very embarrassed very quickly. And I didn't know what to do with my big emotions or my sensitivity either, because we're not really taught what to do with them. And so I kind of fumbled through life and became a teacher. And when I was a teacher, I loved my students. I loved teaching. But there's this thing that would happen. I would go to work on Monday, and by Thursday, I would just be dragging. I would be exhausted. And I would have to do this weird kind of mental jujitsu with myself to make it through Thursday and Friday to get to the weekend, where I would have to kind of pretend I was substituting for myself just to like get through, because I was so tired, because I was absorbing the energy of, you know, the place, the school, and the stress from the other teachers and the students. And so life went on, and then I had another career as a fitness coach, personal trainer, and the same thing was kind of happening, that I was getting exhausted like partway through the day. Like afternoon would roll around and I'd be like, oh my God, I need a nap. Like, what's wrong with me? I was in great shape. I was eating super healthy. I was like, do I need to take supplements? What's going on? And then I heard a podcast, and it was a woman named Jean Hainer, and she was talking about her new book that was coming out. This was 2007. And 2017, I'm sorry. And she was talking about how we absorb the energy from people and places, and can tire you out and like stress you out and just, you know, slow you down. And so I was like, I need to learn what this is all about. So I started going to all of her workshops, all of her trainings. I studied everything I possibly could with her. And yeah, it's just changed my life so much.
I love that so much. Before I kind of comment there, I want to say hi to some of the folks who have joined us. We've got our friend Nora from Toronto. We've got Dina in New York. Charlonda is in Dallas. Said the best part of her day was with her mentor. That's very cool. Deborah is here from Georgia. We've got Lainey, who's a former teacher. She's in Florida.
Nice.
And then we've got another Floridian. Cherie is from Clearwater. So thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting how you mentioned absorbing energy from people and things around us, because that
Mhm.
is something I noticed about myself too, but would never have been able to articulate it that way. I always
Right.
found that when I am in crowds of people, I get
Mhm.
very easily overwhelmed and very,
Mhm.
I always called it overstimulated. But I don't, the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh, I don't know that it was overstimulation so much as I was just absorbing everybody's energy and I was just
Mhm.
overloaded.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that can definitely happen.
So,
And there are also patterns, which I will get into later when I talk about face reading, that make certain people more susceptible to being a sponge.
yeah, and I love
Yeah.
that word sponge because
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I can just totally picture like just soaking up that energy. So
Yeah.
we go about life, we interact with, like, we can't not interact with people. So we are
Right.
going to be absorbing energy.
Yes.
What does that mean? What do we do with it? Why do we do it?
We do it because everyone's connected. We're always synchronizing our energy with the people we're around, and even when they're far away from us. So if you have a friend on the other side of the country and they're thinking about you and they're about to send you a text, you're probably going to think of them because you're a little bit psychic. And then ding, you get the text. You're like, oh, it's because your energies were synchronizing
Yeah,
and
that is
connecting.
very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So so when we, let's go back to the example you shared of you as a teacher, right?
Sure.
Starting the week fresh. Monday's probably fine. Tuesday is probably okay. Wednesday feels a little something, right?
Heavy. Yeah.
But then, like, what do we do with all of this energy what are we supposed to do with the energy collect, or what can we do it with it?
Well, the technique that I use for energy clearing, it just releases it effortlessly. So it's something people can learn to do for themselves, definitely, and actually mentor people who are interested in learning how to do it. And having someone else do it for you, it just takes it to a whole other level, because when I clear someone's energy, I have no attachment to it. We're so attached to our own stuff, and we're going to feel. I'll talk about, well, clearing works on two levels. So the first level that it works at is what we're talking about now, is what we absorb from the external world, from people and their stress, and from environments that are holding stressed energy.
Yeah.
But the other level is the stress we create for ourselves. And that's like even harder to let go of because that's our story. And we're like, you can't see the forest for the trees. And so we hold on to it. But if someone else comes in who is a neutral party, it is much easier for me to help someone else release their stress because I have no attachment to it.
Yeah, that is so interesting because I love to think like, oh, why would I be attached to these negative feelings? Why would I be attached to being angry or unhappy or upset or whatever? But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm totally picturing like not claws, but maybe like thorns, just kind of like
Mhm.
or burrs kind of snagging on me.
Yeah. Yeah. There are patterns that are very deeply ingrained in many cases because of how we are wired um, from birth. And so it can be that much harder to let go of that stuff.
So, can you talk? You said wired a couple of times.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What do you mean by
Sure.
the way we're wired?
Yeah, so this is from the perspective of Chinese medicine. And I just want to give a little disclaimer. I'm going to talk here and there about Chinese medicine. I'm not a doctor. I haven't studied Chinese medicine. This is all the spiritual side of ancient Chinese medicine that I'm talking about, but it has a lot of correlations to what traditional Chinese medicine currently, does. And so uh, the way we're wired, yeah, we're born with a unique energetic design. No one is ever the same as another person. Even if you have an identical twin, you're still different. It's so cool. And when your energetic design is in balance, your energy can flow in the way that is right for you. And you can flow through life with ease and balance, and life can just unfold effortlessly. But when you have imbalances, not so much.
Yeah. Um, so let's say I'm moving through life. Um, I'm in balance, things are good. And then things start getting out of like can absorbing other people's energy, can that throw me off balance?
Oh, for sure. You
Okay.
can go to the grocery store and come home with an entirely different mood. It's it's wild.
Yeah.
And it still happens to me, even though I've been doing this for years, but I can recognize it and then I can, shift that energy for myself, either by clearing it or by recognizing, okay, that wasn't me. It's okay. I can let that go.
Yeah. So how can we recognize if it's our energy or if it's somebody else's?
Um, that's a great question. And I recommend starting in a kind of scientific way so that you have a baseline. And the baseline would be when you wake up in the morning, before you even get out of bed, just check in with yourself physically, do a body scan. How am I feeling? How's my head? How are my arms? Am I sore anywhere? Am I tight anywhere? Do I have any aches or pains? And then go through again, scanning emotionally. How am I feeling? Get, a baseline reading on that. And then you get out of bed, you get ready, you have your breakfast. And then before you step out the door of your home, do the same thing again. And so just check in physically. How am I doing? Okay. Anything changed? Just make a note of it. And then same with emotions like, ooh, am I feeling anxious now because of that presentation? Or, am I running late? So I'm a little, and then get yourself to work or wherever it is you're going, and then check in again 5 minutes after you got there. And that can be really telling. You may have picked something up in traffic or during your commute. That's definitely possible. Or then like when you step into the work environment or wherever it is you're going, that can definitely shift your energy. So it can be a
Oh,
little like a sleuth.
no, what I am hearing in that is mindfulness, right? Being present
Totally.
and being aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that is fascinating. It's reminding me of this time from a couple of months ago. I had this big event at work for my 9 to 5, and it went
Mhm.
so well. It went so well. And then we solicited official feedback and made the mistake of asking if we could do it over again and do something different. What would you want to see different? And people were like, I would like the food to be different. And it was such a weird, nitpicky thing because we had this, like, amazing menu and, like, everything had gone so smoothly, but there were people who were like, we want eggs for breakfast instead of the plant-based breakfast that you served. We want more
Yeah.
food for the non-vegans. I was like, you can eat all of this food. And I was
Mhm.
so like just caught up in all of this, like, I want to call it angst, but it wasn't. And I took a
Mhm.
moment and I was like, oh, this isn't my stuff. And, like, it was the coolest moment because it was, like, the one time I have really recognized this is not my stuff. I'm gonna
Yeah.
let it go and call my own energy back,
That
because I
is
just
awesome.
found myself caught up in the ridiculousness of other people's energy.
Yeah. So 2 things. That's awesome, first of all. It's the pause, and clearing can definitely give you that pause. If you have an energy clearing, um, it kind of resets your system. It gives you a new spaciousness, a new awareness about what your own energy feels like without all that junk around it. And so then when you do, continue your life from that point on after the clearing, you get this pause of like, oh, okay. Maybe I don't need to like get sucked into that reaction that I always do, or, shout in traffic if I get cut off. But the other thing is that when we get to the personality types, I can tell you what type those people were who were nitpicking.
I love it. I love it. Well, so let's kind of shift and talk about energy clearing because you've talked about it, you've mentioned it. Can you talk
Yeah,
us through the like specifics of what energy clearing is, what it looks like, what
sure.
we can experience in a session like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do most of my sessions remotely, although I do house calls if you're local. I love doing house calls. And so it takes about an hour. We meet over Zoom and I connect energetically with you. So energy is not limited by time or distance. And so it's really easy for me to tune into you from a distance. And so it's different from other kinds of energy work. It's really gentle and subtle, yet very powerful. And I'm not actually doing anything to your energy when I clear you. I'm actually being with your energy in a way that allows any areas of tension or stress in your energy system to just relax away. And so it's kind of like I'm coming in next to your energy and just feeling where there are little areas of tension, where there are blocks, stuck emotions that might be holding you up in life. And they just can release away in layers. And I often have intuitive impressions while I'm clearing someone. And so I share them with the person. And it's interesting because they come through the filter of my personality. And so I always explain them. And well, this is what I'm feeling, but it could be showing up slightly different in your life. And this is just how I'm experiencing it. And often people will have an emotional release or they don't feel any differently at all right away because it is so gentle and subtle. And that's why it's wonderful for empaths, people who are super sensitive and they don't necessarily want anyone like digging into their energy. Um, and I also, an aspect of it that I love is that you don't have to sift through the trauma. You don't have to relive the hard things that you've gone through. People can talk to me as much or as little as they like during a session. And it would be something like this, like you would be sitting up, not lying down. You would have your eyes open and you could talk as much or as little as you want to communicate with me. And I always ask people what's going on in their life at the beginning of a session, because there will be things that will come up that are clearing around their current stresses. That's really, really interesting.
I love that explanation of connecting with someone energetically,
Mhm.
because that's not a way I've heard you explain this before, but as you were
Okay.
explaining it, I could just, like, totally picture, Courtney energy and Amanda energy just kind of,
Mhm.
like, gently like, "Hey, you're okay." Just kinda, "Oh, you
Yeah.
can let that go." And that's kind of the image that I
Yeah.
had gotten. I love that because 'cause I've had
Yeah.
sessions with you, and I love the magic. I'm gonna use the word magic because I don't have a better word for it. Magic
Sure.
that happens as I'm talking and as you're, helping me clear my energy. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I'm like, oh, all of a sudden this feels lighter. And it's like my
Yeah.
shoulders drop a little bit, or like
Yep.
I can breathe a little deeper. Like it's
Mhm.
really a cool, cool thing and totally
Yeah.
gentle, as you said.
Yeah. Um, some people have been getting really amazing results lately. I mean, I can talk about my own life, but I'll just give a couple of examples of recent clients that have given me nice feedback. There were 2 people within 1 week who said they stopped taking B complex vitamins. They had been taking them because they had like low energy. And they both said in the same week, I don't need them anymore. It's like, because they had been bogged down by other people's energy. They're both empaths. They're both very sensitive. And they just noticed such a big shift after one clearing session. And things don't always clear that quickly for people. Sometimes it will take a series of clearings, especially if you have gone through trauma or hard times. Things will clear slowly in layers as is appropriate for the person.
Yeah. Oh, that is so, so cool. I want to take a quick minute. I want to say hi to Cindy, who's joining us, and to anyone else who is just hopping on. I have my friend Courtney Sharma, who is a childhood friend of mine. She and I grew up together, and it is so exciting for me to have her on my live stream. So I want to shift now, because what I love about you is you don't do just one thing. You do like multiple things that are all connected, but they're different, but they're connected.
Yes.
So, can we segue and talk about face reading for a little bit, and
Absolutely.
how you first, like, start with how you found face reading, because energy
Mhm.
clearing came first.
Right. Well, it's very easy to explain because it's the same teacher, Jean Hainer. She's brilliant. She's studied the spiritual aspects of Chinese medicine for a very long time, so wise. And these emotions that will clear in a clearing, they're all related to this system that we use in face reading. And so I really felt compelled to learn about face reading so that I could understand my clients better and help them more
Yeah. So
and
can
how
you
they're
talk
wired. Yes.
Yeah. So can you talk about what face reading is? I know, like, from the
Sure.
name, we all think we know what face reading is, but maybe you can
Mhm.
tell us if we're thinking about it correctly or not.
Yeah. So basically, your face is a blueprint for who you are inside. Your emotions will show up on your face, your personality, what you need to be happy in life, and what you need to feel successful. And so it's an ancient branch of Chinese medicine, and it's based on Taoism, which is the philosophy of living in harmony with nature. And so it's anywhere from 3 to 5,000 years old. So I like to say it has, thousands of years of research and development behind it. Um, and let's see, the first scientists really were these people who would go out and study nature. They went out and observed, and they noticed how the seasons changed in a cyclical manner, how day turned into night and night turned back into day. They studied the life cycles of people, plants, and animals. And what they noticed was these patterns that kept emerging of how energy moves through all of these different things that they observed, and how energy moves through time. And from there, face reading was born, because these patterns will show up on people's faces and in our health. Everything is connected in a really interesting way. And so, and then the first, these doctors in China, they couldn't, for whatever reason, touch women when they were examining them. And so they had to learn how to use facial reading as a method of diagnosis. So it was diagnosis by observation. And so they could look at someone's face, because different parts of your face are connected to different organs. And so they could really see what was going on inside by looking at the outside. But then what they learned was they could also diagnose someone's personality based on what they were seeing on the face. And so they became the first life coaches.
That is very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, what specific areas of your face, like, do you read? What do you look at when you're reading someone's face?
So if someone books a session with me, I ask them for pictures, a close-up of each ear, and then I'll look at both ears, then I'll read from the hairline down to the chin, everything in between,
Yeah.
to look
So,
for patterns. Yeah.
and I will say, I think the pictures I sent to you were probably the least flattering pictures I have ever taken of myself, but it
I think
was
everyone feels that way.
but it was so fascinating to just
Yeah.
look at my face in a different way, because I don't
Right.
normally look at a close up of my ear.
Yeah.
I don't look at myself from that point of view.
Yeah, I never
Um,
looked at my ears until I had my face red. And I was like, oh, is that really what they look like?
so I know you've looked at my face, you've looked at my ears.
Mhm,
Do you
mhm.
mind going through and just kind of as an example so people can see what face reading is
Sure.
like? Can you like read me a little bit?
Absolutely. So we talked about, I don't know if you could turn, I don't know if people will be able to see your close up of your ear on either side, but Amanda has these tiny little vertical lines in front of her ears, not on the ears. Yes, thank you. And they're what the Chinese call lie detector lines. They're kind of like BS detectors. And there's something that originated in childhood, but maybe showed up later on your face. And it just means that sometime when you were a child, that maybe you weren't told the whole truth about something. And it's not that someone lied to you or like deliberately tried to keep you in the dark, but children are very perceptive. And so you picked up on something, whether at school or at home or in church or anywhere, that someone wasn't telling you the whole truth. And so you develop these lines. And what it means going forward in life is that you have an ability to kind of read between the lines and tell when people are being completely honest with you or not.
I think that is so fascinating. And since you first told me that, now I pay attention to everybody's ears. And I'm like, oh, you've got them. Oh, you
Yeah.
don't have them. Ooh, you do.
That
It's
is
so
so great.
interesting.
See, we are all face readers, and now you're becoming a more conscious face reader. Oh, that's amazing.
I love it.
What else? Let me see. So we talked about your forehead. So there are good wrinkles that everyone is supposed to develop. It's a sign that you are going through life and learning things and gaining knowledge and just integrating it. And so um, there can be a lot of pressure to look a certain way, to look younger than we look in current society, but there are just some lines that I don't want people to touch if they can possibly help it. And so Amanda has this line on her forehead, a pretty deep one,
Yeah.
and it's not exact in the reading. So this is why face reading is a conversation, to find out, when things happen. But it marks a time in your life in your 20s. Your forehead is the decade of your 20s, and that line was between age of like 21 to 23 as far as I can tell, but it could be a little bit off, that you learned a lesson, and you've integrated the knowledge from it. So when we go out in our 20s, like we think we know everything, our parents are idiots and we've got it all figured out. And then we get out in the world and we're like, what is going on? What face do we make when people behave badly? We're shocked. We raise our eyebrows like, I can't believe you did that. So you learned a very important and deep lesson, and you integrated that into yourself. And if you fill that, if you get rid of it, then you have to relearn those lessons all over again. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time to be relearning things I learned in
Mm-mm.
my 20s.
No, not at all. And it's interesting because every time now I see somebody who mentions they had Botox done, or I have a friend who married a plastic surgeon. She's like, I had
Mhm.
this done. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to learn it over again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for people doing what they need to make themselves happy, but I just wish people knew some of this before and then make a decision. And so I don't think I talked to you about this in your reading, but you have these little lines here between
Yeah.
your eyebrows. Yes, thank you. Some people call them the 11s because they look like number 11. They are wood lines. And so wood is one of the personality types, and you are a wood version of a personality type quite strongly. And they're also called thinker lines. And so uh, they can show up for a couple different reasons. And you can tell me, I think I know why they show up for you. One reason is anger. And I don't think that's what it is for you. And the other reason is that you think deeply and you concentrate a lot, and that you think a lot. And so that's the face you make when you're concentrating.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's so funny because the expressions that I make are very clearly etched in my face. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of this, a lot of this,
Yeah.
like a lot of weird smiley things going on down here.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's so fascinating.
Yeah. And so the thing is that people love to fill those too, and that's fine. That's not such a problematic one to fill if you're going to fill them. But if you are a thinker, you're just going to keep making that face and they're going to come back again and again. So yeah, you can't really erase them. So thinker lines, they're a good thing. Um, what else? Let's see. We talked about these in your face reading, and I told you I was jealous of them because they are very cool. These are called purpose lines. They come down from the side of the nose to the outside of the lips. They're called nasal labial folds. And like I said, they're purpose lines. And sometimes people like to get them filled because they don't like the way they look, but I don't recommend that. In Chinese medicine, they're also called orders of law, and that can sound very ominous, but it's actually a really beautiful thing. And the meaning of these lines is that you, Amanda, are living in alignment with your purpose. And most people don't get these as early as you did. How old were you when they kind of formed?
Mid-30s, maybe?
That's quite early. Yeah, most people will get them in their 40s, and if they don't get them by age 50, then they have maybe a little bit of inner work to do. But it is so, so cool that you have them.
Yeah. And talking with you about them has totally changed the way I feel about them. I used to always hate them. Now I'm a lot more fond of them.
Yeah, I keep waiting for mine to grow in. Every morning I look in the mirror. I look, are they growing? Am I doing? Am I living in alignment with my purpose?
I love it. I love it. So, can you talk a little bit about eyes? Because I know that was something I thought was really fascinating. I'm going to
Yes.
like zoom in on me for just a minute. Sorry, everybody, but I want you to
Yeah.
see what she's talking about when she talks
Right.
about the shape of my eyes.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about your eyes. So let me start with Amanda. You hold your eyes very wide open, and what that talks to me about is your communication style. Is that you're very open in communication. You don't hold much back. You want to be really open with people, and you want them to be open with you too. It also means you take in a lot energetically. The eyes are the window to the consciousness in Chinese medicine. Is you're taking in a lot more energy than some other people are. And that's maybe part of the reason why you felt like a sponge before.
Yeah.
And what else about your eyes? You have rounded lower eyelids, and your eyebrows are also somewhat round. And so what that says to me about you is that you are incredibly kind and warm in your interactions with other people. And people will unconsciously come to you and know that they're going to have a good experience with you because of these shapes, the rounded shapes. You'll want to leave interactions with other people with them feeling good. And especially the lower eyelid, you'll want it to feel like a win-win situation for other people. Whereas if your lower eyelids were straight, it would be the other way around. They would want to like come out on top. And neither one is right or wrong. They just both have their advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, no, that is so interesting. And I would say spot on because I can't
Mhm.
tell you how often I talk to people and I hear things like, I'm not sure why I'm telling you this because you didn't ask. And I don't normally talk about this with other
Great.
people, but let me just tell you this thing. And like
Yeah.
the things people have shared with me have been such a gift because I
Oh,
know that I have done something energetically to create that safe space. And I love the thought that
absolutely.
just I was kind of born to do it. It's
Yeah.
just a cool, cool thing.
Yeah. So the outside mirrors the inside. They do get the warmth and the kindness and the tact and the empathy from you. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. The lines on the outside of your eyes when you smile, they only grow when someone smiles authentically. And we call them crow's feet in Western culture, but they're actually joy lines. And they show that you have gone through life joyfully and able to keep your heart open in spite of any heartache that you have endured.
Yeah. And
And they're beautiful. Yeah.
joy lines are such a kinder, better, more friendly name than crow's feet. Though there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with crows. I like crows just fine. But
Sure,
if I
crows are
can
great.
be joyful instead of a crow, I think that's what I would choose.
Yeah. Oh, I have a story about these. A client. So they've done studies that show people prefer faces that have these lines because they do show this emotional openness, and sort of friendliness and happiness in life. And one of my clients, I did a face reading for her, and she said that when she got married, they had the professional photographer, take the pictures, and then he uh, when they what is it called when they
Oh, like
doctor the
airbrush
photos.
touch up?
Yeah, he airbrushed her joy lines out of some of the pictures to see if she preferred it, and she didn't like it at all. She didn't like her face without those lines.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
interesting. And
yeah,
it's reminding me. So when you and I were in high school, we went on this fabulous trip to Germany with our high school German club. And do you remember
yeah.
the day we went to that place and the street artist was doing portraits? Do you remember?
Keep
Well,
talking. It might jog my
yeah.
memory.
So I have this it's a charcoal portrait of my face, but he didn't include some of the lines. And I like every time I looked at it, I was like, I know that's me, but it doesn't feel like me because all the lines aren't in the right places. And even when I'm like, ooh, the lines, whatever lines I've cringed at, like they're part of me. And I don't
Yeah,
feel like me without them, which I think is
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah. That is. Yeah.
So you can read faces, and you said we all
Mhm.
kind of read faces,
Sure.
unconsciously as we move about. What are
Mhm.
the things that we could, should, or naturally look for, when we interact with people? What are we reading their faces for?
A lot of the times, it's micro expressions that people make. Are they mirroring our expressions, and is there a rapport? Some people we will feel an instant rapport with. We will feel so comfortable with them. It could be a complete stranger in Target, and you're just vibing with each other. And other people, you could be at a party, be like, I hope that person does not talk to me because your energies just do not match. And it's so interesting. It can be the energy they're carrying around, like the stress held in their system that is just, repelling you a little bit. It could be something they picked up along the way in life, as we all do, or it could just be how they're wired. It could just be, creating a little friction with your energy.
Yeah, no, and that reminds me of something my mom always told me, which was, Amanda, not everyone has to like you. Um, And I think in her clumsy way, what she meant, and I realized this when I was 35, maybe that's when my purpose lines grew in when I finally learned this lesson, was that people have their own stuff going on. People will like you or they won't like you, but it usually has nothing to do with you. It usually
Mhm.
has everything to do with what's going on inside them. So
Yeah,
I think that was really interesting that some people we automatically just jive with. And some people, no matter how hard we work at it, we just don't. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with either one of us. It just means
exactly.
we're not compatible.
Right. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So you talked, I know we're talking all kinds of stuff here, and I think this is so fascinating.
Mhm.
You talked about energy types. Can you go
Mhm.
back a little bit and talk about energy types and what those are?
Absolutely. How much time do we have? There are
I
five
know we might
main
have to do a part
personality
two.
types. Okay. Five main personality types. And they are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And they are based on those patterns that I told you about from nature that the ancient Chinese philosophers studied and learned. And it's not that they thought the world was made up of those elements, but they describe qualities of energy. And everyone has all five of them within their personality, within their system, and within their energy. But most people lead with one or two, or even three of them. And so they combine to make your own unique energetic design. And I read it in the features of people's faces and in the energy of their birth date pattern, because you were also imprinted with some energy when you were born. And so I look at the day, month, and year to get information about that. Um, and so, do you want me to describe a little bit? I don't know how much time we have about each personality type, or
Um, eh, can you go
and
long? If
kind of.
you can go long, I can go long.
Well, I'm low on battery, so
Okay.
don't think I can. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
So let's do the highlights then.
Okay. Water people are the dreamers. They are super creative and artistic. They march to the beat of their own drum. Um, and their challenging emotion that they need to face in life is fear. And they have a deep connection with ancestors and with the other sides. Often they're like psychics, mediums, healers. Uh, oh, and what they might like about journaling, they might like writing down their dreams in journals. They have a very rich imagination and rich dream world. You are a wood type. I am too. And there's a lot of good things about wood people. They are super driven. They're ambitious. They love to stay active. They're constantly learning and growing. And they can get a little bit too caught up in reaching the next goal and the next goal and the next goal, and never take time to let life catch up with them. And they'll love journaling to keep themselves organized because they have so many things going on, and it'll help them to stay focused. And then fire element types are the life of the party. They are so fun and open-hearted, and they'll always be juggling 11 different things at a time. You'll never have to ask how they're feeling because they'll tell you, and they'll be talking with their hands. And they'll be the people who will have like 12 different journals and they won't know where any of them are.
Love it.
Earth people are like true blue friends. They're devoted. They live life through relationships, and they love nurturing other people and taking care of them. They might stay in relationships too long because they can be so devoted, or they can neglect their own self-care just because of how they're wired. And their challenging emotion can be worry. And so journaling could be so important for them to get their thoughts out of their head and down on paper so that they can relax and draw their energy back into themselves. And metal people are they have very high ideals. They're also physical empaths. And so they're super sensitive to the energy of people and places. They have good vision to see tiny little details and also big pictures. They make excellent leaders. They have very high standards for themselves and for other people. So they can be a bit too nitpicky, but they can also see the beauty in the world and how perfect everything can be. And so it's a beautiful personality type. And they might like journaling. They like to find the meaning in things and authenticity. And so they might like to explore their life and look for purpose and meaning and look back on the past and explore how they've evolved and grown.
I think that is so fascinating. And as you were talking about them, I'm like, I want to be this, and ooh, I have a little bit of that and a little bit of
Yeah.
this. So we each have some of all of that. Is
Yes, but we
okay.
lead with one or two, sometimes three. You might relate very strongly to a couple or a few of them.
So interesting. So if
Yeah.
we want to know what type we are, how do we find that? What is the process of that?
You book me for a face reading and I'll tell you exactly what your energetic design is and how you can align with it more, or whether you're on the right path. Great.
Awesome. I love that. So talk for a minute about working with you, how we can find you, what it's like to work with you, what we can, what all you offer.
Okay. My website is www.innerbalance.space, and you can book a session with me there. And I work remotely with people all the time. And so I do space clearings for homes or businesses. If you feel like the energy in your home or your office is off, like weighing you down or tiring you out, I do personal energy clearings for people over Zoom and face readings as well. And so if you want a face reading, I would ask you to send me pictures. I'd give you instructions, and then we would get together and go through it all, and I'd give you a reading. And I want to say the energy of the year is changing for everyone. There's these cycles of time that we all go through, and so it can be so helpful to know what the energy you're going into is. It changes on February 4th, and I'm doing free energy of the year readings for people when they book a personal energy clearing through the end of February.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Courtney, thank you so, so much for coming and sharing all of this. I have like a million more questions. I really do think we need to have this conversation again so we can get to all of the things we weren't able to get to today.
I
'Cause
love that. This has been a blast.
I think it's so fascinating, and I love how you do so many different things, but they're all the same. I mean, they're different, but they're
Yeah,
all just parts of one big connected thing, and I think that's so
that's right.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah.
I hope you will connect with Courtney. She is seriously one of the coolest people. And I told her, and I've told her a number of occasions, I will tell you again, of all the people that I know that I could have reconnected, I'm just so glad it's you. And so
Oh, me
glad after
too.
all these years that we get to know each other and be friends again.
Me too. Thanks, my friend. This is awesome.
All right. So, everyone, join me next week. I have another fun guest coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.